Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's been able to relax. If you had to cross the bridge this morning and couldn't, talked to a few frantic people walking in this morning going, good to have you here. We're continuing our Blessed Are the Peacemakers series. Experts say that we're the most polarized society in history, human history. A lot of division, a lot of people divided into camps based on how they believe, whether that's spiritually or how they think politically, how they see the world, how they parent. Man, there's a lot of divisions people kind of have built, looking at people who are different, less and less people wanting to engage in conversation, meaningful conversation with those who are different. It's sad. A couple weeks ago, I did a message called Spicy Conversations, talking about ways to rebuild the bridges, perhaps, with someone that conversation is broken down between you and them. Talking about ways to get the conversation started again, to just kind of mend fences where it maybe was difficult because of differences. But here's the thing, sometimes we can burn bridges. We can break down relationships even with people we love. Even with people we don't necessarily see things much differently with. People we really like. Something happens and all of a sudden there's this coldness, this separation. This happened to me a number of years ago with a good friend who I've known for sure my whole entire adult life. I've known this person since like junior high. This is a person I loved spending time with. We would get together as families. We have so many memories of time spent together. But there was a season a number of years ago where little things happened. This person's close to me, and I know she's going to listen to this message, so I want to be very careful how many details I share. There was a number of things that happened on either end. Little things that just kind of paper cut you, Maybe a little thing that gets said. Sometimes there's an expectation that doesn't get fulfilled. Sometimes there's that feeling of maybe being taken for granted in a little thing. And sometimes they're so small, you don't want to bring it up because you think, just being petty. But then the stress of life, the busyness starts taking over. And it's not really something you're thinking, you know what? I don't want to be around that person, but they just drop a little bit lower on the totem pole in terms of priorities. And you maybe don't text them quite as regularly as maybe you would. You don't reach out to them saying, hey, let's get together, as much as normally was happening. But it didn't take long before there was an awkward distance starting to develop. And to be honest, I didn't even think about it. It was kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And then one day, Kathy said, we should get together with. And I said, I don't know. Life's full right now. I didn't want to go into it with Kat. And she was like, we haven't seen them in a long time. I said, yeah, well, I'll maybe let's just hold off right now. Things are a little crazy. And then that time would elapse more and more. Someone brought up these people's names. They're saying, hey, how's so-and-so doing? And I knew I couldn't answer that honestly because I didn't know. I hadn't talked with them in quite a while. And then I began thinking about how long it had been. You know what I'm talking about? These little things between people you like. All of a sudden, just this little wedge gets in there. Here's the insidious thing. I love this person. I care about her deeply. And even though there is that distance, I missed her badly. But I had allowed things to break down. I thought about, well, maybe we should get together. And then I'm thinking, how do I even bring that up? But I didn't want to pretend that there was nothing going on. I was just caught in this thing. It's tragic how this happens, and I watch this happen. It's amazing how people have shared their little stories of rifts that developed. A lot of these people end up, it's not like these people just leave your life. Sometimes people end up with this rift, and it's with someone they have to face every day when they go to work. And there's that awkward elephant. Sometimes it's when they pull out of the garage in the morning and they see their neighbor. It's like, or they sit across the family dinner table at the next family gathering, and there's something there, and everything just feels a little forced in the conversation, a little tense, just awkward. The conversation stays shallow, stays safe. You know what I'm saying? We don't veer into those conversations that might lead to that event that happened, that frustration. Sad, good friends breaking up over small things. Not wanting to have one of those conversations that might get to the bottom of it and get it fixed, what I'll call a crucial conversation. A couple weeks ago when I talked about building bridges and mending fences with these people we see differently, who believe differently, who think differently, who see the world differently, I just shared some general wisdom on how to restart the conversation in very general ways, but I didn't talk about dealing with the elephant in the room, dealing with the reason why the distance exists. How do you do that? How do you sit down with that person who the friendship has grown cold with or awkward with and have the conversation to talk about that thing so that you can make this go away and get back to what once was? That's tricky, isn't it? Whew. This morning I want to talk exactly about that. Look, I know there'll be some people here who have a thought or have a situation perhaps in mind. I've been talking with different people about this very thing over the last little while. And there's some people who are quick to say, look, I would, but you know what? Now I've got to set up some strong boundaries because something serious happened. Some people said, it will never go back to the way it was because this was much more serious than just a little conversation that needs to fix this. There are some people who have told me the relationship needs to die. I can't go back. I get that there are reasons why relationships break down that are much more serious than a conversation can fix, perhaps. Those particular situations are not what I'm talking about, because I believe that most relationships that break down, that have grown cold, are not that kind. Most can be mended. Most can come back to the table and restored. Those are the ones I'm talking about this morning. And folks, just I know you know this, but it just needs to be restated. I'm talking about this morning because this is deeply spiritual business. Jesus told his followers, the world out there will know that you are part of what I'm about. They will detect some real spirituality within you. Why? Not because of your fancy beliefs or how much you can quote from the Bible or nothing like that. He said they will detect something real is going on inside of you. Your spirituality is pure and true by the way you care and love one another. That Jesus held up as the hallmark of spiritual people. And there's people who say, well, you don't know my mother-in-law. You haven't met my neighbor. I bet Jesus was anticipating that. Because he said, well, just so you know, you've heard it said, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. He says, I say love your enemy. He said, there are people who think, man, you don't know the people. I'm going to just love the people that really love me. He goes, that's not spiritual business. Anyone can do that. Do the thing that's hard. Figure out how to love that person who's made it tricky for you. It was John who, let the bullets fly when he said, you who think you love God, or in other words, think you're truly spiritual, but go on hating your brother or your sister, you're a liar. You're not spiritual. What you're pretending, it's a sham. Spirituality is born out of love for your neighbor, for your brother and your sister. Despite what you may have witnessed, what you may have observed of a Christianity out there, our tradition, the Christian tradition that we talk a lot about around here, was born out of this priority of loving well. So me talking about mending fences with someone in our lives, probably I consider one of the most spiritual discussion points we could have. So it's with a level of sobriety that I have this morning that I'm talking about this. I don't see this as optional if you're a part of this game. And talking about mending fences and trying to fix what's gone cold in a relationship is not a fun topic. I'll admit, this is one of the least fun topics for me. I'm not a confrontational guy. I'm one of those guys that just is hoping and praying things are going to work themselves out. When I feel like something's happened, and I'm going, oh, something funky's happening here, I'm not the guy that comes in and says, whoa, that was offside. Why would you do that? I'm kind of one of those guys, they didn't mean that. Well, I'm sure that was, that's just in my head. I'm sure that's, and as I start feeling the funkiness, I'm like, I think it'll sort itself out. I'll even have people saying, have you talked to them about that? That's, they got a lot of stuff going on. I don't like confronting problems in relationships. I've hoped and prayed that time would heal many blowouts or paper cuts. But my experience has been rarely is that true. I've often justified not going and dealing with stuff by saying, you know what, things aren't that bad. We're talking. We're being civil. We're not being rude to each other. But how many know when something funky is going in a relationship, how easy it is to pretend like it's gonna resolve itself, and then you come into that conversation with that person again. And all of a sudden, they'll say something that tweaks you a bit. They'll do something that reminds you of the last thing. And all of a sudden, you can feel your emotion rise. And you're going, oh no. There it is. How many of you, when you're all of a sudden skating around again with this person, and all of a sudden the argument starts breaking out, and you're looking at them and you're talking about, and all of a sudden you have one of those deja vu moments where you're like, we've been here. You've said that before. I've said we've gone around this mountain before. And all of a sudden you start thinking, how many times do we have to have this conversation? Maybe at some point after the conversation goes down or the encounter, the skepticism rises within and you say to yourself, nothing's going to change here. Not only do relationships rarely fix themselves when there's problems, but the residual scar tissue that can develop from those little paper cuts, it bleeds. It's like a toxic, it's like a cancer. It starts getting in, and that skepticism starts growing. And it starts affecting, it can affect even healthy relationships you have. You take what that person said, and then someone says even something remotely similar, and you go, oh, you too? Oh, I get it. You're one of them. It can start bleeding into some of the best relationships you have that are working. It's insidious that way. So we can't ignore the problem. I don't know about you, but sometimes I've just avoided the conversation altogether because I bought into a myth. It's called the fool's choice. You heard of this? Fool's choice is this belief that I only have really two options in dealing with this problem. And they're two bad alternatives. One is I either shoot straight and tell them how I'm feeling, I tell them the truth, and I lose the friendship. Or I don't say anything, and I keep the friendship. Fool's choice. It's this belief. It's one or the other. I can either share candidly what I'm going through right now and the problem I'm having here, or I can be kind. It's almost like this belief where I can't tell the truth and be kind. It's I either tell the truth and I rev them up and we have this, or I either choose silence or I choose violence. I'm a silence guy. How many silence people are there out there? Okay, thank you. How many violence people are out there going, I'm going to get you, take that? Yeah, we tend to fall into one camp or the other. The good news is that this fool choice is a myth, that there are other alternatives. You don't have just one or the other. A while back, I picked up a book called Crucial Conversations, and I got to tell you, this book made so much sense of some of the situations that I had been facing. I remember reading parts of it just going, why isn't someone talking about this? I could have used this when I was 20. I could have used this all throughout my marriage. I could have used this in so many different... I think if Jesus knew about this book, he would have been selling it at his book table after his lectures, man. It was just like, oh. So I just want to share some of this wisdom this morning that I pulled from this book that I think plays into the hand of being a peacekeeper, bridge builder, fence mounder. It's called Crucial Conversations. This morning I want to share this. Authors in this book would claim that the most difficult part of addressing the elephant in the room, of getting the conversation going, is first understanding what the real problem is. They say that there's 3 layers or 3 levels of problems. It's very important you know which one you're dealing with. Now, if something's just happened between you and a person, maybe they said something that just really offended you. Maybe they promised something and they didn't deliver. Whatever it is, chances are that's a first level problem. You're addressing a very specific situation of behavior, something that happened. You can go to them and say, look, here's the thing we need to talk about. And it happened when you did this, or when we botched this event. That's ideal when it's just that. You can isolate it to this one event and say something squirrely happened there. Can we talk about that? But sometimes that's not really the problem in some scenarios. Because sometimes when that doesn't get dealt with, and sometimes even though it gets dealt with, more stuff happens, which then takes you into the second level of problem. This is when you spot a pattern. This isn't just a one event thing. This isn't the fact that they just said, hey, I'll meet you at 9, and they showed up at 9:36, whenever that was, Vince talked about last week. It wasn't just one event. All of a sudden now you're starting to notice there's kind of a chronic pattern of this person kind of leaving you hanging, making a promise and them not showing up. When all of a sudden you see a pattern and you want to talk to them, they might just refer to this one thing, just saying, hey, come on, I was 36 minutes late. Cut me some slack. You're going to... But you know down deep, actually, it's not just that. There were these other scenarios that we didn't even talk about that now I'm seeing and I'm going, wait, this is a pattern here, and it's a concern. It's a stage 2 or level 2 problem. If things kind of keep going in a certain direction, you might get to a level 3 problem. This is when the relationship is in question. This is when you're starting to see certain things. Maybe it's a competency issue where they're just doing things that are causing so many different frustrations. You're going, what the heck? Maybe they've said things to someone in confidence, and you're going, I can't believe you said that. And then this happened over here, and all of a sudden now, the question isn't, why did you say that thing? Now the question is, I don't know if I trust you anymore. I don't know if I want this relationship that we have. I don't know if I can continue right now because of a number of these different concerns I got going on here. Something needs to shift between us. There's bigger issues. I don't know about you, but there have been times when I've had a conversation with someone and I thought we were going to address something at level 1, something I had done, something very specific. And they're looking at me and saying, Jeff, my concerns are deeper than that. I'm going, huh? Have you ever had a conversation with someone and they're trying to fix something at level 1 and you're wondering how much you can share because your concerns are bigger than just level 1. And so you just go along with it and you go, okay, fine. They say, I'm sorry for that level 1 mistake I made. And you're thinking, I don't think it's fixed because my concerns are wider. Do you see what I mean? You need to know what kind of problem you're trying to solve. What level is this thing on? And when you know what level it is, then your conversation gets guided toward that level. Because when you can address it on the right level, things get fixed. If you can't, if you settle for a level that it's not really on for you, you'll be back. Figuring out what level is a big part before you even start any conversation. Once you know kind of where that's sitting, now you might be ready to have a conversation. The next question is whether you can be in the right frame of mind to even have a conversation. How many know when you're amped up, when you're aggravated, please don't have the conversation? When you're ready to, don't do it. Experts say every good conversation, every bridge, like every expert that does this well will start by making sure that their heart is right at the forefront of the conversation. They kind of, and for lack of better term, they just make sure their heart is in the right place. Do you know what I mean by that? You actually care about the relationship. You want to figure it out. You want that person back. You want things to go back to where they once were. And if you're there, you might be ready to have this conversation. It starts with the heart, where you have the right motives. You're committed to restoring the relationship. Some people, some of us know me. I have initiated a conversation and I just wanted to punish the person. You ever been that? Where you're saying, hey, we need to talk. And I need to make you pay because you hurt me. Or I need to be right. The ninjas in this area are able to just get the agenda, the heart agenda, right out in the open. And that is where the invitation into the conversation can begin. Hey, buddy, I'm wondering if we could have a chat. Oh, really? Yeah. And it's one of those awkward ones. Really? Yeah. I don't know about you, but I think something's happened here, and I don't like what's between us, and I was hoping we could figure it out. Okay. Because I don't know, I just feel like something's off, and I miss where things were, and I don't know, it just, you can fumble around in that, but in the process, you can reveal your heart, where you're just simply saying, I care about you, and I want us to go back. I'd love it if we could go back to where things were. Because something's different now. We're not talking like we once did. I haven't seen you in so long, and I miss you. But I know something's happened. Could we have that talk? That there is one of the most awkward, difficult, scary things. And tricky to get right. But if you can start with the heart right out there, that person might say, okay, let's have that conversation. If they can sense your heart. If they sense you're ready to pounce, to judge, to point out, to fix, chances are they might dodge that conversation. How well can you allow your heart to come out and invite them in? Once you've kind of gotten to that point, you've invited them in, the next question is, can you stay at heart level as you engage in the conversation? Can you keep that at the forefront? We're going to get back to where we were, right? We're going to get back to where we were. Because very quickly when you get into what happened, and things begin to be shared on both sides, it is very easy at that point to get triggered. Where that person will share something, that just stings you. where they point out something that they were hurt by, that they heard you say, that may or may not even be true. Sometimes I might say something and you're going, wait a second, that's not even accurate. Oh. How quickly we go from, I just want us back. Oh yeah? Well, and the defensiveness rises up, and all of a sudden it's like, take this, my friend. Screw the friendship. You're going down. This open sharing, this safety that you create as you just open up and say, this is what I want for this. This is so needed for this conversation. Though it's difficult to stay soft, to stay pliable, to stay open, to stay curious, it is critical for what they call getting the shared pool of meaning going. This was fascinating to me. The authors of this book talk about pools of meaning. When you get into a conversation with another person where there's been a problem, you're bringing into that conversation your own pool of meaning, which is really kind of the collection of your thoughts of what happened, your experiences, your observations of the other person, how you would tell the facts of what went down, or at least your perspectives. But not just that, it would also include past experiences that you've had, other situations, not even related to that person, with other people where things went sideways that now are coloring this. It can incorporate all of that. Your perspectives on life, your values. That's your own personal pool of meaning. And the other person is bringing their own pool of meaning, their own collection of observations, how things went down, what you said, what they thought you said, what happened behind the scenes that you didn't even know that happened. And the mistake we often make is assuming we know what their pool of meaning is. So as they begin to share, we can quickly start trying to fill in the sentences for them. We can say, no, I know what was said. Well, just wait a second. Do you know what they think you said? What they heard? Do you know what was going on in their life prior to that situation? It's embarrassing to think about the number of times I've walked in. I was talking with my son about this yesterday on the golf course. The number of times we've had blowouts. And it's often happened because I come in with my circle of meaning and my pool of meaning, and I'm assuming that his is mine. And he begins telling his story, and I almost stop him, saying, I know. Here's what you don't know. And he gets so frustrated. He's like, Dad, no, you don't. And I keep cutting him off. The power, the ninjas who have these great conversations are able to create this open environment where they say, help me understand your pool of meaning. And they invite that person to start filling in the blanks. Tell me more about, wait. What happened prior to that? Okay, just wait a second. So before we got together, you were actually at a friend's house. I didn't know that. Oh, okay, and so you were late because this thing was going on that kept you from. Oh, I didn't understand that. People who allow this person's pool of meaning to emerge in the conversation, you allow them to just start spelling it out. They'll reframe what people will say. They'll go, oh, okay, just let me just repeat back what I heard there. They'll reframe and they'll repeat. They're going, is that right? Yeah, that's right. Oh, I didn't know that. They'll say things like, tell me more about that. Help me understand. Why? Is this this was my rendition of what went on. Can you help me understand? Did you say that? They told me that you had said this. Is that what you really said? Can you tell me more about that conversation? Just like, these are the ninja skills that say, I am not making any assumptions here. You are going to help me fill in all the blanks. Now, something amazing happens as someone's pool of meaning grows, as they feel safe enough to tell you all their details. Sometimes they'll start, and then, have you ever had this? They'll stop and they'll go, no, I don't want to say that. You won't like that. The ninjas will say, no, please say it. It's okay. I can take it. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? And as you do that, and as they've been at that pool just starts going up. So all of a sudden their pool is getting bigger. You've had a chance to kind of share your pool. Now what's amazing is their pool, as you've understood it and heard it, now becomes shared. Now it's not just their pool, it is your pool. You're hearing their side, their perspectives, their beliefs. You're going, I had no clue about that. Oh, that makes so much sense. Wow. The authors would say that this shared pool of meaning becomes the collective IQ of the party that's talking. And when the wider and bigger that shared pool of meaning becomes, the sharper the decisions, the sharper, the more effective the communication becomes, the more each person feels heard and understood. If you can build enough safety and that person starts sharing, the more that pool grows. I'm going to invite the band to come up. Something beautiful happens when these pools join and you're sitting there looking at the other person and going, I get it. I get now what was going on. Or I feel like you get what's going on in me. And when you get to that point, and you'll know this to be true if you've experienced this kind of conversation, people can't apologize quick enough. People are running to go, look, we're all good. We're all good. No more. Hey, I'm good. Are you good? Kathy and I had one of these crucial conversations just in the last week. And of course, stuff is fresh in me. And I'm going, no. She goes, Jeff, it's good. I'm sorry. Let's put this behind us. It's a beautiful thing. This is the hallmark, I believe, of someone who's committed to the way of Jesus. They go, I want to have a conversation because I love it when we get to the backside of that. And the shared meaning grows, and all of a sudden, the person is going, you good? I'm good. And next thing you know, the text, the conversations, the awkwardness starts dying. Conversation starts growing. All of a sudden, you just can't wait to see that person again. This is what this is about. We talk about getting to the we. We start from the I, or we start from the they. You can't get to the we in some of these relationships if we can't have this freaking conversation. So, I have a feeling you have someone in mind. I'm betting you might have. It might be a little thing. It might be something that's just happened over the past. I'm going to invite you this week. No, I'm going to challenge you. Have a conversation. Take one action toward the conversation. Maybe it's figuring out, what kind of problem do I got? Where is the problem? Where did things break? Is it just one thing? Is it a pattern? Is it something deeper? Maybe it's that. Maybe it's you just saying, hey, I'd love to take you out for coffee. Something's been bugging me, and I miss you. Or I think I might have done something that hurt you. Or something happened a while back, and I just want to get rid of it so that we can just, I don't know what that sounds like. Would you take an action this week to get things back to where they could be? And close us out. Have a great week, everyone.